Hey everyone, welcome back to the Pelvic Pulse podcast. I'm Dr. Brittney Ellers, your holistic pelvic physical therapist and pleasure advocate, otherwise known as your therapist. I've gotten really, really good at that little intro, even though I feel like I am way more than the names of those things. Um, I've been doing this Womb Whispers series on social media, and I just wanted to start off with that because it's just so easy and comes right off the tongue, rolls right off. But yes, welcome. If you're new here, this is actually the third solo episode I've ever done, the second one of season 3. We're starting to mix in these things because, I feel like while I love having some guest conversations and I love dropping into a guided meditation, there are just some things I want to riff on and share about. And I knew walking into this, the theme was going to be about community and belonging and sisterhood, kismet meetings. Um, I'll be naming a deep craving that I've been having and starting to name because it's been brought to my attention as well. So, I guess the way I want to start this whole episode is just going in chronological order, yet I'm going to do my best to weave in the threads that are basically making my life fabric feel thicker. Does that make sense? I I have all these singular, seemingly singular events that have been occurring, and of course that's not how I think life works. I think God source ends up having a plan for you that's bigger than your own, anything that you could ever imagine, and that is absolutely related to the pelvic space. At least it is for me. So let me do my best in naming these things and also ending this episode with an ask, a share for you. So let's rewind back to April. I had this experience that I named in the first solo episode, but I didn't really get into it too much. But I sat with Kambo, with a practitioner here in San Diego. She came to my house. If you have questions about it right off the bat, send me a message or an email. I can hook you guys up. And it was really wild. It was my first experience doing that. It was my first experience doing Sananga, I think is what she called it, where she puts eye drops in your eyes and it burns. It comes from a root. Everything that I used that day was natural. And we also did rape or hape, and that was actually really, really fascinating. My body loved that experience. It felt like a warm hug. And I mean, I could go into so many details about everything with each of these events, but once I actually had the Kambo applied after all this prepping and priming that day, it it was intense and wild in the sense that, I mean, it's not a psychedelic, but I felt a lot of body sensations. And what stood out to me the most and what I still carry with me today as like the main thing that I experienced was that I had this thick tension around my throat chakra. Um, she felt and noticed a lot on my right side when she was doing some other modalities on me and with me. And I just remember envisioning what it felt like. And it was almost as if a boa constrictor was around my throat, holding it down. And I just had to wait that out and let that pass. And it did pass. It doesn't stay for very long. It was probably 8 minutes. And wow, coming off of that, the message I received was that it's time to take that boa constrictor off of my throat, off my voice, and really lean into some of these things that I've been wanting to share about, but maybe holding back a little bit. And I hold back only in spaces like the online space. I don't hold back in my one-on-ones and my friendships. So but it's very interesting that that is what I had been doing. And at the same time, in April, I believe, it it was just time for me to actually step into studying something I've been so curious about for so long. If you've been listening to the podcast, it's something I always will bring up out of curiosity, and it's human design. And the woman that I've been following for so long, for years, because my friend Lauren introduced me to her page, Sam Zagar. She's a 3/6 planet projector. And I've always been drawn to her content. And she finally came out with this program. It's a 10-week program to learn about your differentiated development as a projector. So I'm in now a group with multiple projectors from around the world, and we're learning about our design, others' designs through Sam's experience with her clients. And it's been so illuminating for me. There's a lot to share on that. And I will refer back to my human design uh, probably consistently throughout this whole thing. But we're not even finished with our 10 weeks yet. And we've skipped a couple of weeks because of holidays and things. But I've been, mm, yeah, I've been kind of floored with how my human design really just bleeds into everything. And I especially notice it in retrospect, which is very, very cool. Um, so for example, being a projector, I wait for the invitation and then I see what my spleen says, my authority says. And I was invited to go to Miami, which I think if you also have been listening to the pod for a while, you know this, or you follow on email or social medias. My friend's husband reached out and was like, "Hey, I would love to bring you out here and spend some time with her, with Jessica." And Jessica's also, I mean, projectors are all in my life, which is so crazy. But Jess, my one of my best friends, is a projector, and so is her husband. And I was an instant yes, and it was the easiest yes I could ever make because I have been to Miami once before, and that was for her bachelorette party. And yeah, it just felt like, okay, we get to spend some one-on-one time together, which is how projectors typically thrive. So I get out there, and Miami, just in and of itself, is such an interesting place. And I am a kitchens person in human design. So that right there, it felt like a whole different community. Um, the people there are just so, I don't know, well lived and uh entrepreneurial and beautiful. I mean, some are fake and some are very, very real, like real beauty. And I just was so inspired by the culture there, and the weather was so nice. It was very warm, humid. Like I think my body and my skin and my hair, like it all just loves that dryness. So, or not dryness, but the humidity. And I'm like looking over at my notes so I make sure I stay on track. Okay, what I gleaned from spending time with Jess, though, because she just started her own business, she's also a projector. She has fun making content as well. We just jammed on creating for fun, and it felt like no pressure, but also let's just push our edge here and see how much we can kind of make here just for fun. Like if we still feel that, yes, like let's just do it. And so we were making a lot of meals, and we were working out, and we were spending time with her dog and going to these events. And um, it was just a super fun time. And it re inspired me in so many different ways, including, you know, being there. I got to hear Hulia, who is my collaborator for a few meditations on this season, and she creates all the music on the background. And she sent me this soundscape and I just fell in love with it and I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. That's when I sat down and did the recording for The Magnetic Woman. That is the episode, I guess, after Connor's. And speaking of Connor, I got to see him and meet his wife and her brother while I was in Miami because they live nearby. And that was just as expansive. You know, we're getting to talk about movement and pregnancy and preparing for pregnancy, calibrating for motherhood again in person, which that's so cool. Then, man, I this is all in May, by the way. I got this idea a long time ago, actually, to do this series called Womb Whispers. And just this past week, I'm like sitting here recording this on a Wednesday, episode coming out Friday. So on the Sunday right before this, just had a class with Sam about human design. And I told her about the womb whispers, and she asked me what that really meant for me. And here we are talking about this part of our design that makes us either receptive or strategic. And below that or deep to that, my brain's capability is about feeling. And yet at the end of it, there's an acceptance sense that I desire to share and to also feel for myself. And I mean, without getting too into the nitty gritty of the quote unquote keynotes for human design, I told her that these womb whispers are actually, to me, experienced as whispers. When I put my hands on someone's body here in my practice, or even, you know, when I do on occasion in home, like I go to a client's home and I'm there with them and I'm working with them on their bodies, that's typically postpartum. I feel stuff. I feel it through my fingers, I feel it through my hands, and yet also it's an internal bodily feeling for myself. Sometimes I get full body chills, sometimes I get like sympathy, like pains, but they're not pains necessarily. Like I know it's not necessarily mine. I also can hear things. So there's a clairsentience, which if you're not familiar with the clairs, go ahead and look into those. Um, I have clairsentience and I also have a clairaudience. So I can hear these whispers. And whether they're coming from the person's body or it's coming from God, dropping in these messages. Like the example I gave to her was I the most recent experience that was just very, very clear and obvious to me. I was working on someone's right side and I was doing a more of a psoas release, sinking through into deep hip flexors. And I got the message to ask her about her son. And I did. And she, you know, had her expression, her moment of release, and, uh, you know, just being able to even name the thing that was aggravating her the most. It wasn't the hip pain, it was probably more of this energetic relationship to this right, so potentially masculine um, relationship in her life. And so that was just very, very cool to me. And when I named it like that, it makes sense. Um, but, you know, for content and to make something still really fun for me and to make it feel like this is stretchy and this is hard and edgy in some ways, to show up every day and use my voice every day and to really hone in on a message as quickly as possible. That is a fun challenge for me. And I hope it's getting across to people who are listening and actually taking these womb whispers in, that they understand this is not just coming from my own embodied wisdom, but also it's coming from these experiences that I'm having with people, and that people are yeah, just feeling in their own systems. So that has been really interesting and fun. I started doing the womb whispers for June and it was so crazy. So June popped up, and one of my friends, Gilly, ended up coming to stay with James and I, and that was amazing. If you haven't listened to Gilly's episode, she's the most number one listened to episode on this podcast, and we did one about healing the womb energetically and physically, and wow, just being in space with her is always such a gift. And yeah, it's just nice to be with a soul sister who gets it. And it was um yeah, it was amazing. She is such a light. If you have the chance ever to work with her, speak with her, learn from her, please do it. And I'll kind of blend that into a conversation that we had, because Gilly is one of those people that I've been in connection with for a long time, and we come in and out of each other's lives in a great way. Where like when we get together, it's simply awesome, you know. And we both learn from each other. We hold space for each other, and there's a community that I've been a part of online. I remember telling her actually about it because I thought she could benefit as well. Of course, like as we're all building something, Gilly's building a school of energy with her friend and another practitioner, and here I am building something quote unquote on my own, but not really. You know, I don't do this. I own this business myself, but I don't do it alone by any means. And the community I've been a part of is called the Guided Network. It's a creative community, and Jennifer Adishian runs that, started that. And we had a conversation not too long ago, just a few days ago, about what it is we're desiring to create and where we want to create that. And she brought up to me the community piece, and going back to my human design, my view and how I see things in the world. I'm good at seeing what's missing usually, but for other people, not for myself. And something that Jennifer shared with me was that she was really hoping or looking for community to talk about some of these taboo topics. And I have to completely agree with her. That is something actually that's missing in my life that I'm also craving. And so let me get into these other little nuanced pieces. Or just kismet, I guess. They're not super, super nuanced, but I met someone through the guided network through an online event. It was basically like an online speed dating event. Practice your pitch or practice talking about what it is you're doing. And maybe you'll meet someone who can help you along the way or just be a supporter of that. Whatever. It doesn't necessarily matter. I don't know why other people joined. I just wanted to like see what it was like to do this kind of networking experience. And I ended up meeting a woman named Jamie, who we ended up in the same room twice with the way that they structure those calls. And turns out of this entire global network, she lives 20 minutes away. And we decided we were going to meet up and go to a coffee, tea, go on a walk, which we did a couple of times. She came over another time and we spent a few hours just working on our businesses side by side. She's incredible and just left her corporate job and is starting her own business as, um, well, she's a lot of different things. And I'm going to link all of my people down below on this episode so that you can check out who's speaking to you. But a functional medicine practitioner, and energy healer, astrology reader, coach, sound healer. She does a lot of things. And okay, so backing up back in, I think it was back in March, I actually got invited to do a talk that was scheduled for June last week. And the person who invited me is a woman named McKenna Coons, who used to work with my brother Dean. And she has been on this journey with me since 2020 doing yoga on YouTube. And if you didn't know that on my YouTube, I have all kinds of um, yoga flows, just general kind of like deep stretch, slow flows, and a whole playlist of prenatal yoga flows. You're welcome. Those are there for you. I'm not taking those down in any point in the future that I can see. And so she used to join these calls live, and sometimes it would be just like my family and her, which I kind of forgot about until she mentioned it at the actual event. But she's been a part of a few other events that I've put together, or online workshops. And so when she invited me to come to LA and do a more small, like intimate event in person, I was like, yes. And I asked Jamie if she wanted to go with me. It just felt right. And I invited a few friends to meet me there, including one of my best friends, Serene, who has always been there for me through um, the many iterations of these pelvic health workshops. I remember she came, and so did Jess and my other roommate, Robin. The four of us are kind of a little quad that we've all known each other since 12 years old. And it's so funny. Serene got to be there uh, before when my whole workshop was called The Active Female and Her Cycle. That's what I used to call it. Wow. A lot different. This one was called Embodied Wisdom. And so Serene was there, Jamie was there. And then actually, going back to Sam Zagar's class, I met someone in that class named TK, and she lives in LA. And I was like, hey, if you're around, I'd love to meet you in person. We've been getting to know each other online through the course and through texting and the WhatsApp group we have. And I'm like, I'd love to meet you in person. And so she actually showed up. And the four of us afterwards, not everyone could come to the um, like after hang, but we all went to an after hang and just started talking about all kinds of things. And it was the reminder I needed being in the group with the woman and having more of like a couch conversation, shoulder to shoulder with McKenna. And then, having this group of women not just listening, but contributing to the conversation and asking questions, but also sharing their own perspective because not everyone knows everything. And I think in general, women all have a story to share. So afterwards, we're sitting down and having dessert and hanging out, and I'm like, I really, really have been craving this and needing this. And then just last night, I went to finally a breathwork circle with a woman who I've known for years now, and I've been a part of her email list for forever. This is Carmina Little, and I just have never, you know, never bit the bullet, never signed up for the sessions, but she had reached out to me not too long ago and was like, "Hey, I feel like we've got to do something together. Like I'm ready to do like women's health stuff, like bring it into the circle and I want you to come experience my breath work and the type I do." And I'm like, "Yes." Like she on her property has a yurt and a beautiful space for these women to gather. Um, and so I went last night, and this was also just like another invitation, and it happened to also land on Sag full moon and with Jupiter now in Cancer, which okay, I to be fair, human design has a piece of it that incorporates astrology. Like astrology is in your human design. And yet astrology on its own, I've never been able to like have it click. It's just now starting to. I feel like my mind is mature enough to the point to begin to wrap my head around it. And if you know anything about astrology, maybe you know Sag is a fire sign. So we're like, and it's a full moon, so we're releasing things by fire potentially. We're doing breath work, and Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter is this big planet of expansion. And for me, it lies in a house of spirituality and speaking and teaching and philosophy and travel and studying. And I'm at this point now, right? So it's like literally all of this stuff to say that I'm really craving to be in circle with women in real life and online that are part of the right community, which is part of my fourth line profile in human design. I, yeah, like I desire some of these like deeper conversations, like the conversations that we were having in LA at that event. It spanned all kinds of topics. And the event was from 6:30 to 9. I'm pretty sure I started talking at 6:45. We didn't stop talking until 9. And we like barely made it out of the venue on time, you know, because there's so much to say. And I am again really craving, I have these from a business standpoint, and I'm not sure if anyone even freaking cares about this and how I'm thinking about these things, but from a business standpoint, I've got these one-on-one sessions that are amazing. I try to keep them to about 2 days a week because my projector energy can only hold so much one-on-one time. And I also feel like I've poured a lot of my heart and soul and knowledge and depth into Vaginal Alchemy Reloaded, and that lives on there as a resource and like an actual path for someone to follow. And yet I am actually wondering, and I again am craving, I can't stop using that word. Like I'm craving to know what's going on in your journey with that. Like I want to know if you got my pleasure playbook, if you're using it or if something's coming up for you. Like I want to know, not out of like, I just want to make sure that this is helping you, but like I'm genuinely curious. I don't want you to also buy something and just let it sit over there on the side and you not take advantage of what you have there. And if it helps to have a proximity to me, um, I'm kind of curious how that would go. And I'm willing to try some things out. I mean, I've had a free community before where this was, gosh, was this in 2020 or 2021? I can't remember. But the Phasic community has always been free. And yet I know that sometimes there's friction with joining a new platform or like knowing what the space is really about and you don't know. But I feel like I'm ready to bring something like that back in a really easy capacity. Because what I'm also noticing, I have a lot of friends that have memberships or circles or communities, and everyone does them so differently. And for me, my mind automatically goes to like, oh my gosh, that sounds exhausting to put together something where like I'm gathering experts every time, every month. And I'm like, wait a second. Like I literally do this for the podcast. But those people come to me so naturally. I don't have to go hunting for people. I feel blessed in that way. That is my fourth line showing me opportunity with the right people. And yet, something I think I want to name is that I've heard Jennifer Adician say this multiple times when she talks about community, and I so appreciate her naming it because this is how I feel. The expert led communities are kind of, I don't know, like fizzling out in a way. I don't want to like put a lot of people on a pedestal anymore because this is what I notice. Like when I launched Vaginal Alchemy Reloaded and I got together in the group of women who signed up in time to join for this initiating call, I think all of these women who were on the call had experience and wisdom that I'd love to hear more about. I think what we all need now, myself included, is just a safe space to be a freaking woman and be rooted in our wombs and ourselves and feel connected through the heart and just to be a peer, like just to be one of us. You know what I mean? Like I just want to be one of you and I want you to be one of me. I want to be in not it doesn't have to be casual, quote unquote, but I definitely am looking for something like, I mean, for lack of a better phrase right now, just a safe space to talk about some of the things that I haven't felt comfortable talking about super openly on like big old platforms. Like I'm not here to rub my or what's the phrase? I'm not here to air my dirty laundry to everyone. I want to be very discerning about that and who I share that with. And I've shared with like new people to my life that felt like I could expose these certain parts of me. I expose certain parts of me with my clients because I feel like that is a, you know, they're in a vulnerable position in sharing their bodies with me and their hearts and their emotions and their mental states with me and like I feel like I can do the same um to help them also grow and see that there's probability and potentiality for growth beyond what they're potentially experiencing. So, yeah, I guess it's like I just want this safe space to talk about all kinds of things, like what we talked about in embodied wisdom and what I get to have conversations with my friends one on one or my clients one on one. I want to talk about sex. I want to talk about relationships. I want to talk about getting ready for motherhood and what that even looks like and what actual pregnancy is looking like and how you're getting there, how you're supporting yourself. If you're, I mean, even if you're a business owner, it's like I'm so curious how you're managing all of those things. If you're also a mother, how to navigate aging and what it looks like to, I mean, I hate this phrase so much. The aging gracefully conversation is really fascinating to me. Um, because it seems like no one wants to become an elder. And I just had this conversation with Carmina, the breathwork facilitator, who, I mean, she's not just a breathwork facilitator. It's so funny. We just talked about that too. Um, but it's like no one wants to become old or wise. Everyone wants to look young, feel young. And I get that. And this is why I think all of us are searching for mentors. And maybe mentors aren't even there. And so what we might only have accessible right now are these peers or people just like maybe one or two steps ahead of us on this life journey. So there's that. I want to talk about pleasure, embodied pleasure, dance, ecstatic dance, choreographed dance. What's the difference between performance or authenticity and what does it really mean to belong and show up and whether that's like showing up for postpartum, showing up on social media, showing up in friendship, and showing up in your partnership and relationship as your whole body is changing or going through perimenopause. What it's like to be a woman in perimenopause and then have daughters that are now first getting their periods. There's literally so much to talk about. And I don't know, I don't have all the answers of how I want to do this quite yet. I am I am workshopping a name for this community that well, I don't know what that again is going to look like. I don't know what this potentiality is, but yeah, if this feels like it's tapping on something in your heart or in your womb or in your pussy as a woman, like please check the show notes and maybe just take some time and fill out this form if you're like I'm craving this same thing. Like I want to be having some of these conversations and I'm curious about your perspective. I'm curious about your perspective and your perspective. Like, invite your friends, let them know that there's a space coming to talk freely. And again, I don't know the framework, but what I've been riffing on or thinking about is that it'd be like once a month call, Zoom, free. But some of the parameters I'm not quite sure yet. I don't know. I would love to know what you would want and what you're looking for. But I know for me, these like live engagements are what is missing. Is that grammatically correct? Who cares? Yeah, it's missing in my life to have these live connection things. So I'm going to take a moment. If you're still listening, still here, thank you. Um, yeah, there's something that's itching to bloom outward. I'm wondering if we can kind of close up this episode. Maybe I can ask you a few questions and you can sit with those. So, who are the women in your life that you can be real with? What are the conversations that your body is craving? What's your heart craving? Is there a place that you feel like you can take off the mask? Where is that place? And if you're still looking and you're like, I need to be a part of this, then I just want to invite you first in dropping down into that link at the bottom or in the show notes and just answer the form for me. And I'll put something together quickly because, again, I need this. I want this. I want you to come with me. I want you to be there with me. I want you to grow it with me. I don't want to do it alone. I want the Being Better community itself to have a space from my clients, from my students, who all end up normally becoming my friends and my peers at some point, or vice versa, right? It all goes all the directions. And I guess to tie it back to that life fabric, this thread, I feel like the web that I have out there touching different communities through all these different people that I listed and name dropped here. These relationships have always been important to me and I want them to remain strong and I want to weave that web, that fabric into a thicker consistency. And I think that just requires a more without, I hate the word consistency as a projector, but I want to find a cadence with connection with the right people. And if you're someone who listens to this podcast regularly, I want you to be a part of it for damn sure. So, with that, I thank you. Next week, you'll have a meditation, a brand new meditation. We'll see what that one will be about. Likely will be inspired by a client of mine. And I can't wait to share that with you. And in the meantime, yes, again, one more invitation to just fill out that form below and let's get in connection with each other face to face, not just voice to ear. Okay. Thanks again for being here, and I will see you next time.